Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Deus. In case it's your first time on this channel, and on this channel, I basically share everything that has to do with forex trading, my loss, my wins, and everything in between. So if you're new here, kindly subscribe and like, because it helps with the analytics, and then you would be the first to know when I drop a new video. So in this video I'll be dropping my market breakdown there for this week. The pairs that I'm watching for this week I'll be dropping. So and it's going to be like this every Monday. I'll be dropping everything that I'm watching for the week on Mondays. So without wasting much time, let's begin. So for this week, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs. Right. So let's start off with the Euro USD. Just like in my last video, I mentioned that I was looking at this Euro USD, right? But I didn't take it, unfortunately, and look at the way it dropped. Right, it was part of the pairs that I was watching last week. Right, I said it in my last video, my last weekly market breakdown. It was there. Right, so if you haven't watched that, you can just go back and watch that, and I will drop the link in the description as well. So for this week, I'm looking at these pairs, right? Just 6 pairs out of the many pairs that I trade, out of the many pairs that are in my watch list. You can see that, right? So let's start with the EURUSD. At this point, what can I see? I can see that this is a continuation setup, right? We had an expansion. Right, that broke the structure, coming from the pullback of this after this sweep happened and the break of structure, right? So this is like the origin of this setup. Right, this is the reversal pattern and this is the continuation, right? So my expectation on EURUSD now is that I want it to come back into the 71% and then continue downwards, right? So before I set my entry parameters, I would want to see price pull into the 50% level, right, before entering the 71% and then come down, right? So yeah, clearly this setup is an A+ setup, an ideal setup as well. Why? Because I have FVG aligned up with the 71%, right, which made me pick this setup, right? So till I see a movement or a deep pullback into the 50% level, I will be holding myself, right, before I set my parameters. So the next pair that I'm looking at here is the USDCHF. And the USDCHF is quite similar to the EURUSD, only that I'm going to be buying in this position, right? And why am I buying? I can see that in my last video as well, I took this setup, right? This is set up from this point. I took the setup from this point to this point, and obviously ATP on here, same thing, right? We had FVG aligning up with the 71%, right? And this is obviously a continuation setup. I can see that we don't have a sweep before the break of structure. That's because it's not necessary to have a sweep in a continuation setup, right? But then looking at this whole range, before price book structure, we can see that it gave us a sort of a sweep right at this low before breaking structure. Right, that's an added confluence for us. Right, so under confluence that I'm looking at now is the FVG lining up with the 71% before the expansion. Right, so just like the EURUSD, I'm expecting for price to come tap into the 71% and the 50% of this whole range, right, before I set my entry parameter. And then I want to see price coming into here and breaking structure, creating new higher high. Right, so yeah, that's it for USDCHF, right? But for the USD card is quite similar as well. Right, this guy right here is also a continuation setup. You can see how price has been bullish on USD card lately. Right, yes, it cannot always be like this, right? But till then we'll keep following the trend. Right, we'll keep following the trend. So at this point now, what do I see here? I can see we had this huge momentum that broke structure right here without having this sweep. Okay, we can consider here as a sweep before the break of structure. Why I'm not taking my range from this point is because I don't see any reason why price might want to pull back into this point. Right, meaning that we have favorable gaps here, and this favorable gap is clearly aligning with the 71%, but not quite aligning. But we can see that it's in between the 71% level right there. So just like the other two, I expect for price to tap into the 50% level before I set my entry parameters, right, and then come back into this level and then pump to the upside. Right, that's my expectation right here. So going on to the next pair, which is the CHFJPY. Just like the others, but this one is a sell, it's a short opportunity. Right, what I can see here clearly, I didn't take this setup. Right, I didn't take it. I missed out on several setups just like this last week. Just like the USD and this one as well. There was one other one that I missed out on as well. But that aside, I'm looking at something here. Right, got an expansion from this point. Can consider this as a sweep as well, but this setup is clearly a continuation setup from this origin right here. You can see that we had the sweep from here, price book structure right here, we had the pullback. if I were to enter this setup, I'd have taken my entry, my swing from I would have been looking to draw my fib tool from this point. Why? Because looking at this range right here, I don't see any reason why price might want to pull back into here. Right, I'll continue. No, because there's no pocket of liquidity here, there's no favorable gap around this point right here for price to come back into to fill up. And you can clearly see how price just reacted from here and dropped. Right, so what do I see here? I can see an expansion to the downside, FVG line up with the 71%. Anything other than that, I'm not involving myself in it. Right, just like the others, I expect price to give me a push into this 50% level, right, before I set my entry parameters at 71%, right, and then I expect price to push back into this level and then create a lower low. Right, since we are in a downtrend, right, obviously we're obviously in a bullish trend before we shifted at this point to being in a downtrend, right? So till then, I'll watch what price does, right, before I put my entry parameter. So lastly, the US30 right here, just like the others, I expect for price to do the same, right, create a higher low right, before creating a new higher high. Right, this setup is actually a continuation setup as well, coming from this point, right? This is from this point, a break of the structure, continuation, right? And you can clearly see that price is bullish on here. So till when price changes the trend, you keep following the trend, right? I know that I use the daily time frame as a macro perspective, right? So this what's new, but I've figured it out that 4H is actually an higher time frame as well, right? So using the daily time frame could be an added confluence for us, but then it's not necessary, right? It could just be an added confluence for us, but not necessary. So I feel like I might not be using it that much anymore in my videos, right? So back to what I was talking about. I said this is a continuation setup for this guy right here. So I expect for price to, just like the others, to pull back into this 50% level before I set my entry parameters at the 71%, and then finally drop into the 71%, create a lower low right here before pumping to the upside, right? But we don't know, price might just decide to calm down, take us out and shit. So yeah, anything can happen in this market, and that's just my expectation, that's just my pace that I'm going to be watching for this week, right? So there's something that I'm going to be announcing later, but I'm still testing it. I'm kind of in an intraday setup from last week. It triggered last week Friday, right? And I'm currently in that setup, but then I didn't take it in my own personal account, right? I didn't take it in my GoFunded account, but I'm going to be making an official announcement about it much later in the future. What I obviously saw here was from this range, right? But as this range right here, and I can obviously see that price is in a continuation, right? So I took advantage of that on the 15-minute time frame, right? Mind you, I'm just testing it out. I've not officially started taking it on my personal trading account yet. I'm still testing it out, right? So if anything changes, I'll let you know. So I think this is the end of the video. We've come to the end of the video, and if you are still here to this point, I crave your indulgence to subscribe, like and share, because I'll be dropping more content like this back to back every Monday. Alright, so thanks, and catch you in the next video. Peace. Trust in me when I say okay. It's okay. Oh, pretty baby, don't let me down, I pray. Oh, pretty baby, now that I found you, say and let me love. Oh, baby, let me love you. Oh, baby. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At no last love that's right. And I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you.